Hello everybody, it is I, Mr. Aaron, and it is 2 p.m., which means we are back for more story. And what story are we back for more of? Why, the Dragonology Chronicles, the Dragon's Eye, of course. Now you may remember when we left off yesterday, Daniel had been hypnotized by Scorcher, which no one expected could happen because dragons don't normally develop the ability to hypnotize people until later in life. And so he had to do pages upon pages upon pages of math problems to purge his mind of the dragon hypnosis. And then he was going to talk to Dr. Drake. He was standing right outside the office, and we heard Mr. Tibbs from the Minister of Dragon's office arguing with Dr. Drake inside. That's where we left off yesterday. That is where we will be picking up today. It won't be long before someone puts 2 and 2 together and gets dragon. That was Mr. Tibbs. And I repeat, this has nothing to do with the secret in ancient society, although it is an extremely worrying development. That was Dr. Drake. Coupled with your having a live and very dangerous dragon right in the heart of London, I would have said it is rather more than a worrying development, yelled Mr. Tibbs. As I said, from your descriptions, it certainly seems that someone has been up to no good. Has anyone spoken to Ignatius Crook? Of course. It was Ignatius Crook who was kind enough to inform the minister that your ill-starred experiments in so-called dragon science seemed to have taken a turn for the worse. He was entertaining a lady dragonologist and was taking her to see your shop when he discovered what you were up to. You're saying that he came round to see me at 6 o'clock in the morning, said Dr. Drake. That hardly seems a very sociable hour to be paying visits. Surely the minister does not distrust my version of events entirely, otherwise he would not have sent his son to my summer school, do you think? I am not entirely privy to the minister's thoughts, Doctor, said Mr. Tibbs, but I believe you to be an ambitious man. The minister and I have had to spend a great deal of time hushing up dragon incidents that involved you in the past. Of course, you always claimed that you were only doing what was necessary in order to protect both humans and dragons. Can you really assure me that you are not seeking those dragonological treasures from Ebenezer Crook and the late Lord Chiddingfold, determined should be returned to the safekeeping of the Society of Dragons? You are one of the few men who could discover where they are. You would find their powers extremely useful, of that I have no doubt. And are you sure that it is not Ignatius Crook who is searching for them? Said Dr. Drake. As far as I can see, he considers them to be family heirlooms. He was very upset when his father refused to tell him where they were. He feels he's been robbed. We all know that Ignatius has made mistakes in the past, but he has sworn to the minister that his only interest in dragons is theoretical. And who is the woman he was with? Her name is Alexandra Grinchka. She's a Russian, I believe, and leading member of the Russian Dragonological Society. She's here on a research trip. And I think I have met Miss Grinchka. What is she researching? I'm not sure. Dragon diseases or something. In any case, it is beside the point. The minister wants to know when you are going to release the 2 dragons you are supposedly looking after. You are sure you are not training them for something? Surely it is time that they both went back into the wild. We have heard reports that you are unable to keep Jamal in his compound. I hope that we shall not have to cover up further reports of fiery devastation in the Sussex countryside. I can assure you that I am taking every step to keep Jamal confined, said Dr. Drake. We check up on him every day, and I shall take him home to North Africa myself the very minute he is able to fly properly. I was engrossed in this conversation, but suddenly I heard another noise behind me. Someone was coming up the stairs. I quickly knocked on Dr. Drake's door. The voices within went quiet, and the door swung open. Why, Daniel, said Dr. Drake, I am glad to see you looking so well. Mr. Tibbs is just leaving. Mr. Tibbs looked as red-faced as I remembered him from the first meeting. Well, I dare say I have said my piece for now, he said. Just be careful, Drake. I don't want to hear about any more burning barns or missing sheep. And with that he took his hat and left, nodding to Emery, who had come up the stairs and was now standing at the door with a sheaf of papers. Emery placed the papers on Dr. Drake's desk. "Thank you, Emery," said Dr. Drake, turning to me. "Now, Daniel, you have had quite a shock with Scorcher. The fault is mine, for I never came across a case such as this with such a young dragon. Hypnosis can be a dangerous thing unless it is caught early enough. Nevertheless, I am going to administer a fail-safe cure, which you may not like, but which will certainly do you good. I want you to forget all about dragons for a while. I want you to concentrate on working out the answers to these pages of mathematical sums. When I am satisfied, we shall talk again." I took the sheaf of papers back to my new room. There were quite literally hundreds of mathematical sums. I didn't like the look of them at all. Suddenly, life at Dr. Drake's was beginning to feel very like boarding school, except that all of the other children were having the most fantastic time learning about dragons, while I was doing sums. Beatrice came to see me. "Are you all right?" she said. "No," I said. "I've got to do about 1,000,000 sums." "Dr. Drake says that's the best way to cure someone who's been hypnotized by a dragon," she said. I told her what I had overheard Mr. Tibbs tell Dr. Drake. Beatrice was quiet for a moment. "Don't worry," she said. "I'm sure Dr. Drake has everything under control. When you are better, I'll tell you what I've learned in class. After all, Billy needs to learn that girls are—" "More or less about the same speed as boys," I said. "Quicker," said Beatrice with a laugh. And she left me to my pages and pages of sums. So it looks like I got a little mixed up on my wrap-up of the last... I said that he'd done the sums last time, but that was when I was preparing for today. I got a little mixed up, so I apologize for any confusion there. Anyway, Chapter 14, The Society of Dragons. Even though I desperately hated being made to do so many pages of sums, I was equally desperate for the cure to be a success, and I went at them as hard as I could. I think I must have got through about 15 pencils and 10 erasers. Every evening Dr. Drake would come up to check my work. By the end of 3 days, could probably have recited my times tables all the way up to about 50 or 60, and my head was so swimming with numbers that I even started doing sums in my sleep. Finally, I finished a page that ended something like this: 3.14159 times 3,963.205 times 3,963.205, 72,721 divided by 81, 29,979,458 divided by 14. It took me less than 20 minutes, and Dr. Drake finally pronounced himself satisfied that the cure had worked and that I could rejoin the other children. That night after dinner I took Beatrice aside. "Dr. Drake says that I'm cured," I said, but I must be careful not to see Scorcher for a while." "Thank goodness," said Beatrice. "Billy is not being helpful, to say the least. Darcy is amazing, but Billy seems to think that the classes are all for him, and whenever he knows something that we don't, which obviously he does because he's studied dragons for longer, he says it's too difficult for girls and won't explain it." "What have you been studying?" I asked. "We've been learning about the history of the SASD," said Beatrice. "Can you tell me about it?" I asked. "Well," said Beatrice, "it all started in about 1281, when King Edward I ordered the extermination of all dragons in the kingdom. Unfortunately, quite a few knights joined in, and things began to look pretty bad for the dragons. There were some people, however, who tried to help them, including a lady dragonologist named Beatrice Croak." "You must have been named after her," I said. "Perhaps," said Beatrice. "She narrowly avoided being burned as a witch and escaped to Scotland. Before then, most intelligent dragons had been happy sleeping in their lairs. But now they started to seek each other out, and the Society of Dragons was formed. It was only through a great deal of cunning that Beatrice Croak managed to convince them not to burn down London, York, and several other large cities. She helped them to hide the treasures of some of the dead dragons, and formed the Secret Society of Dragonologists with her son, Daniel. We call it the Secret and Ancient Society because, as far as we know, it is the oldest dragonological society in the world." "So we were named after them!" I exclaimed. "It seems like it. Anyway, over the years, the SASD collected 12 special treasures. Although they were made at different times in different countries, each one of them gives the wielder certain powers over dragons, and they were the treasures that Ebenezer Crook returned to the dragons before he died. Since Ignatius is Ebenezer's son, I wouldn't be at all surprised if he was searching for them, I said. Yes, said Beatrice. Dr. Drake's suggestion may have been right. Beatrice fetched her record book so that I could copy down the list of treasures. This is what I copied. The Dragonological treasures of the SASD. Note, most are ineffective without the accompanying charm. Number 1, the Talisman of Master Merlin, an extremely powerful Welsh artifact that has the power to call upon the aid of a mighty dragon, if you know the right words. Number 2, Splatterfax. From ancient Russia, this amulet is said to bring down a hail of rocks on its unfortunate victims. Legend says that it was brought to England in 1066 by the Norwegian king Harald Hardrada, but was lost at the Battle of Stamford Bridge before he could use it. Number 3, St. Petrock's Chalice, an ancient Cornish cup that bears around its rim the ingredients of a sure cure for sick dragons, which must be mixed in the cup itself. Number 4, Abramellin's Dragon Attractor. From England, this is an iron ornament in the shape of a hexagon fitted with a gemstone that can be used to locate particular kinds of dragons. Number 5, the Dragon's Claw. Said to come from China, the claw has various properties and is a powerful ingredient in many different kinds of dragon spells. Number 6, the Spear of St. George. More like an African assegai than a traditional spear, this is one of the few weapons hard and sharp enough to kill a dragon. Number 7, a box of dragon dust. Dragon dust is a very rare substance, normally available only in minute quantities. Some of this dust, collected in Austria, dates back to the 1280s. The rest was collected much later. 8, Liber Draconis, a book written in Dragonish by Gildas Magnus, and said to have been copied from an original kept in the Reales Alcazares in Seville, Spain. Only a true dragon master is allowed to know what it contains. Number 9, St. Gilbert's Horn. From Scotland, this horn has the power to summon any nearby dragon. Combined with dragon dust, a powerful taming effect may be obtained that lasts for a number of weeks. Number 10, the Dragon Scepter. Said to have come from ancient Peru sometime before Columbus discovered America, the scepter can be used only once to summon an army of dragons, after which it will break into pieces. Number 11, a vial of dragon's blood. Like dragon dust, dragon's blood is very rare, and it is forbidden to collect these days. It is also very dangerous. However, in extremely small doses, it can assist in understanding Dragonish. This vial contains blood collected in India. Number 12, the Dragon's Eye Gem. Lost for many years, this gem has the power of confirming the status of a true dragon master. As such, it must be returned to the Society of Dragons upon the death of each dragon master, and kept until such time as they elect a new one. What does it mean by the accompanying charm? I asked when I had finished copying the list. It means you have to use some special words, said Beatrice. What, like magic? I said. Yes, but don't worry. We haven't done any magic. Dr. Drake says it's not something you should meddle with unless you know a lot about it. He says that lots of dragon charms use supposedly magic words, but that a proper dragon scientist should pay more attention to the ingredients and the way the charm works. Oh, I said. Did you know that dragons have their own language? No, I said. It's called Dragonish. Only intelligent dragons speak it. One of the charms is in Dragonish. Dr. Drake taught it to us, but you need dragon dust in order for it to work properly. What is dragon dust exactly? I asked. Apparently, when a mother dragon has her babies, she breathes out a sort of calming vapor. It condenses on the walls of dragon layers in silvery sheens, and it can be scraped off if the dragon will let you. And what about the words of the charm? Beatrice showed me the place in her record book where she had written down instructions for something that Dr. Drake had called Abramellin's taming spell. Apparently it lasted 3 hours, but you needed 3 Troy ounces of dragon dust, whatever Troy ounces were, and you had to put them in a silver dish that had been washed 3 times in water that had reflected a full moon. "I suppose most water has reflected a full moon at some stage," I said. The rest of the spell involved casting the dragon dust over a dragon that you needed to tame and saying the following strange words. "Ivashi Yuduin, Inemor tame in spells, Boyar Ugonur Gadet." "I wonder if tame means tame," I said. "I don't know," said Beatrice. "Dr. Drake wouldn't provide us with a translation." The next day I remembered that I had forgotten to ask Beatrice about the leather ball that Emery had given us before I was hypnotized, but I didn't have time to ask her anything before we sat down in the classroom, waiting for Dr. Drake. "First," said Dr. Drake, "I would like to welcome back Daniel. He's been studying mathematics, which ought to be a field of study embraced by all dragonologists. You never know when the ability to perform lightning-fast calculations might save your life." He winked at me and continued. "We have studied some dragonology theory, charms, and so forth, which luckily all require ingredients that you do not have, so I'm not worried about you trying them out by mistake. Today I shall just finish telling you about the Society of Dragons, and then after an early lunch there will be time for a spot of field work. I will start off by pointing out that while there are various dragonological societies around the world, what I am telling you relates to the societies that were set up in the British Isles in the Middle Ages. As you know, the Society of Dragons was first formed in response to King Edward I's command that dragons be exterminated. The society was a haphazard affair at first, but now there are always 7 wise dragons that act as the chief members of the society. They meet every 7 years in order to discuss any matters of interest to them. And while an experienced dragonologist like myself may know some of these important dragons and suspect that they are members, the actual composition of the Society of Dragons is a secret known only to the Dragon Master himself. Chief among the members of the Society of Dragons is an extremely wise, extremely ancient dragon called the Guardian. Her lair is the most secret of all, because it contains the remains of many hoards that were collected during the last great dragon slaying. Because dragons rightly distrust humans, the only person who has a right to make representations and suggestions to the members of the Society of Dragons on behalf of mankind is the Dragon Master of the secret and ancient Society of Dragonologists. This has resolved conflicts and helped both humans and dragons on many occasions. Because of the respect he is accorded among all dragons, the Dragon Master needs some sign of authority. That sign is the Dragon's Eye Gem. It supposedly belonged to the magician Merlin, whom many consider to be the founding father of Western dragonology. When exposed to dragon fire, but only to dragon fire, an image can be fixed within the gem, so that it is the only image the gem will reflect. When the Society of Dragons elects a new Dragon Master, almost always respecting the wishes of the previous one, the Guardian uses her flame to burn his or her image into the Dragon's Eye, and presents it to the new Dragon Master. When there is no Dragon Master, the Dragon's Eye is returned to the Guardian. This situation has been rare, but there has been at least one period before now when there was no Dragon Master. During the reign of Queen Elizabeth I, the gem, along with contact with the Society of Dragons itself, was very nearly thought to be lost. Now, are there any questions?
If the Dragon's Eye can only be awarded by the Society of Dragons, why would anyone but a Dragon Master search for it? I asked.
Well, said Dr. Drake with a twinkle in his eye, there are 2 reasons. First, someone might feel that, as their family had been Dragon Masters for more than 200 years, that they had a hereditary right to it. Second, possessing it would give considerable power over dragons that were not among the 7 members of the society. For a short time they would believe that person was the Dragon Master. This could lead to all sorts of complications. As far as I know, the fire of any adult European dragon would do to fix a reflection in the gem. It does not have to come from the Guardian.
Do you know where it is? Asked Billy.
I do not know exactly where it is. There are various notes in my own record book, which I call my Dragon Diary, that could perhaps help me to find it, but I am afraid that unless I am invited by the dragons themselves, or the gem falls under threat, then I, for one, would not be so foolhardy as to go looking for it.
Might anyone else be able to find it? Said Beatrice.
Without spending a great deal of time studying dragons, or without the information in my diary, I very much doubt it. But I think you have learned enough about the Society of Dragons for now. We have some rather more exciting things to do after lunch than talk about dragons. We are going to meet Jamal.
Chapter 15. Jamal. After lunch, Dr. Drake and Emery met us at the front of his house.
"Is everyone ready to go?"
asked Dr. Drake. Are you sure that it will be safe for Daniel?
asked Beatrice. "Oh, I'm quite sure," said Dr. Drake. "While Scorcher seems rather out of the ordinary, quite possibly as a result of the disease he was suffering from, Jamal is a perfectly normal wyvern, and there is absolutely no danger of being hypnotized by him. The time will soon come when I must take him home to Africa. However, he is a playful fellow, and I think he will be quite glad of a visit. In any case, he seems to be escaping from his compound quite a lot. I think it's a good idea if we all check up on him from time to time. It will give Darcy a break anyway." I suddenly realized what Darcy's mysterious disappearances had been about. He had been going to check up on Jamal all along. Dr. Drake turned to Emery and said, "Have you got the ball?" Emery showed it to him, and Dr. Drake then took an apple out of his pocket and cut it in half. "Jamal is learning to fly," he said. "He jumps and leaps and moves his wings about in order to exercise them. He is very well fed, which makes him friendly, and he also has a lair which he protects at all costs. Now, it is a little-known fact that while dragons love lettuce, they hate apples with a vengeance because they give them stomachaches. So it naturally follows that Jamal will not want anything that smells like an apple in his lair." And at that he took the cut piece of apple and rubbed it all over the leather ball. "Your job today is to kick this ball past Jamal and into his lair. I don't think you will be able to succeed, but since it is a game, I need someone to be on Jamal's team." This time Billy's hand shot up a fraction of a second before Beatrice's. "All right, then," said Dr. Drake. We trooped through the forest, and soon arrived at the fence, which I now knew to be protecting Jamal's compound. It showed signs of having been repaired several times. Emery took us round through a dark clump of pines to a small gate. Emery unlocked it, and we went through. Almost as soon as we were inside, there was a rustling amongst the bushes, and Jamal ran forward to meet us. Then he bounded away, flapping his wings as though he were showing off. "That's right, Jamal," said Dr. Drake with a laugh. "Lead the children to your lair." It wasn't hard to find Jamal's lair. There was a huge pile of bones outside, and I thought that Dr. Drake must have been keeping at least 10 butchers in business with all of the feeding he needed to do. Like Weasel's den, Jamal's lair was dug into the sand, but it was dug into a tall bank, and it looked much more like a cave mouth than a simple hole. "Now," said Dr. Drake, "show Jamal the ball." Emery took the ball and showed it to Jamal. The dragon came over and sniffed it. He looked puzzled for a moment. Then he leapt backwards towards his lair and stood in the entrance, looking at us warily. "Right," said Dr. Drake as Emery placed the ball on the ground. "Billy, if you go and join Jamal and kick the ball away, he will realize that you want to help him. You other 4, your go-mouth is between those 2 large pines over there." This was amazing. Dr. Drake was going to get us to play dragon football. "Who's going in our goal?" I said. "I will," said Alicia. "I'm afraid I'm not very good at kicking balls." But she had hardly started back for the 2 trees when Billy came running towards her and kicked the ball into our goal. "Easy," he said. Alicia trudged through the undergrowth, fetched the ball, and threw it back into the middle, where it landed near Billy's feet. "We haven't started yet," said Darcy. "Then we'll start now," shouted Billy, and he began dribbling the ball with his foot. Beatrice tried to tackle him, but he simply shoved her out of the way. "That's not fair," said Beatrice. But by now I was trying to tackle Billy.
He isn't going to shove me, I thought.
Unfortunately, he didn't need to. He got past me in 3 swift steps and advanced on Darcy. He looked up and then kicked the ball hard, but not at the goal mouth. It bounced off Darcy's head, knocking his spectacles flying.
"Sorry,"
said Billy. Darcy had to scramble for his glasses to make sure they were not trodden on, while Billy dribbled the ball up to his sister, who was making the most half-hearted goalkeeping effort I had ever seen. I think she was afraid that the ball might sting if it hit her. Billy coolly passed the ball into the goal behind her.
"Dragons 2, Dragonologists 0,
he shouted, running back toward Jamal's lair. Alicia trudged off to retrieve the ball again. And that is where we are going to leave off for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, be sure to tune in tomorrow at 2 p.m. as we continue the story of Dragonology Chronicles: The Dragon's Eye. Don't forget to come in for our new grab-and-go craft bags this week. We've got some pretty cool stuff once again. Of course, the libraries are open, but you can still get curbside service if you prefer, and you can still access content digitally at sweetwaterlibraries.com. And of course, don't forget to check out our other live programs, Toddler Time with Miss Becky, Stories with Sunny, and Creating with Constance. Thanks so much, guys, and we'll see you tomorrow.